All right, I want to open it up to questions from the audience. Before we do, I have one more question for you, which is there have been a lot of Fox News anchors which have found themselves becoming cabinet secretaries. If you were to take over a government department, which would you take over?
Doge. It's not an official government department, but I would take over Doge.
Okay, questions, please. Okay, we have a lady. Thank you. We need to get you a microphone.
Oh, just talk loud.
Oh, just talk loudly. That's the way.
Should I go hold a microphone over there forever?
That's the way we do it at the Daily Beast.
Human microphone.
Okay.
Yes, we're going to repeat your question. You can
I can
tell
just
this
go
is
over
live.
there. You want me to do it? Okay. This is my job.
I like it.
This is the Don Lemon Town Hall for the Don Lemon Show and the Daily Beast. Yes, what's your name, ma'am? Anu. What's your question?
So my question is, I just finished reading Careless People, which is at the top of the New York Times bestseller list. And I don't know if you all have read it, but I'm very curious to your response or just feedback on how Meta is handling the situation.
Great question. Sam is obsessed by this book. She's read it extremely carefully, and we are fascinated by the way that Meta is handling it. On the same week that they cancelled fact-checking for the rest of us, they forced the author into arbitration.
They did, and we were supposed to have her as a guest on the podcast, and she was actually then forbidden to come on it. I thought it was a really interesting book. I think I really, really enjoyed it, and I think that Meta's response to it by putting it into arbitration and trying to shut it down had the exact opposite effect, and in fact elevated it to the top of the bestseller list. It's really well written. I think it's really, really interesting. I don't know a lot of the players personally, but I think it's a great kind of chronology of the damage that they've done, because they truly have been careless people, and I think it's a really worthy. I think it's a really worthy read. I really, really liked it, and it starts with a shark attack, and that alone got my attention.
Can you imagine if you wrote a book and then that happened? You'd be like, yes!
Oh,
You'd be like, yes! This is going to be number one with a bullet. Yeah, right. Thank you.
And also they've got her on a technicality, which is that they're claiming that she broke her non-disparagement clause in her severance agreement. They haven't gone after her because they're saying anything in the book is untrue, right? So it's a classic workaround in the way that Donald Trump said he was going to injunct Michael Wolff's first book, Fire and Fury, but didn't.
Yeah. Is there an attorney in the room? I've been told that non-disparagement or non-disclosure, they're really tough to enforce. Like
they're very tough to enforce.
Yeah, so it's like if you do it, you're just basically signing. It's basically to scare people so that you scare them into not talking. But look at what happened with Stormy Daniels and then Susan McDougal. Like they all, not Susan McDougal, what's her name? McDonnell, whatever her name is. And they basically told their stories, and Donald Trump never sued them because they signed a non-disclosure agreement or non-disparagement, and nothing ever happened. It's very tough.
Very tough. All right, next question. Okay, lady down here. Then
Julie.
Hello, lady down here. What's your name?
My name's Julie Dermer. I have a question for Sam.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sam,
Yes.
would you ever consider doing the Not the White House Correspondents dinner as you did in 2016? And if so, like for all these people that are now banned and won't go, and would you be nervous, like what would go through your head about having something like this?
By the way, I was there last time. Do you remember? And the company got mad at you. I thought it was funny.
I know. The company was so mad at me. Oh my goodness.
Because she roasted us, and I'm like, yes, that's great.
Yeah,
back up and just explain to people what it was, because not everybody will know.
So I guess in 2017, was it 2017? We, the show that I had at the time, which was called Full Frontal, we wanted to create. Donald Trump had announced that he was not going to attend the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and we were so angry about, attacks on the press. It was unbelievable. We wanted to support journalism, so we just didn't feel like the traditional mode was sufficient for the moment. It was not meeting the moment, so we intended to create some counter-programming to that event, and we did it twice during the Trump presidency, and they were both so fun, and And we did get in a lot of trouble because we roasted
That's- you got in
CNN, and
good
that was,
trouble.
we got in good trouble with
Yeah.
CNN because
But
that was
would you
our
do it
parent.
again, as she said?
Would I do it again? I don't have the ability to do it again, but certainly I would do it
Yes, you
again.
do. You
Yeah,
can
we
do it on your
could
podcast.
figure out a way of doing
Oh,
it
that's
again.
an interesting.
And we
We
yeah.
could. I mean, it's a little shocking that the White House correspondents dumped Amber Ruffin as unceremoniously as they did.
When you acquiesce, when you give over, when you comply, when you pre-comply
Mm-hmm.
with Donald Trump, you get nothing out of it. There's no benefit. You get nothing from it.
Yeah.
You might as well just, like, it is your job to speak truth to power,
Yeah.
not power to truth. Like, it's backwards. We have it backwards.
Okay,
I
one
think
of
there's
the-
an audience for it. Pardon me. I do think there's an
Thanks,
audience for
Julie.
that.
We had a great time. The after party was so fun. Elvis Costello was there.
Oh my
It was
God, I
really good.
remember
Yeah, it
that.
was good.
Costello was there?
Yeah.
I was due it
Yes.
to invite Elvis Costello.
I wish that I didn't
Watching
know
the
that. That's right.
You asked me about the bigger audience in CNN. I think that you underestimate the power. Look at what happened with Amber Ruffin, what you did. And you've had several similar things, not quite to that level, but just from a podcast that you're doing for the Daily Beast. So I think there's a place.
You know what? You
for
should
guys to do
have
that.
Amber on
You
to
should
do
have
the
Amber-
set that she would
Yeah,
have done.
well, I would love her to do that. I would love her to do
It's
that.
a great idea.
Yeah, we should
It would
totally
be
do
really
that.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That
then
would
we'll
be
invite
really
the
fun.
White House correspondents and see if any of them come.
Thank you, Julie. That was
Where are you going to have it? I
inspired.
want to go.
All right, gentleman in the middle with the glasses.
I'm tired and old. Do you want to? Okay, I'll do that.
He looks like he can project. No, Don's getting down.
Okay.
For those
Hello,
listening
sir.
and
What's
not
your name
watching.
and what's your question?
Hey, my name is David. My question's for you, actually.
Uh-oh.
So I worked at TikTok for 4 years. I'm really curious to hear about, now that you're independent, how you're thinking about your overall content strategy. You're doing Substack, TikTok, YouTube. Tell me, like, what you're trying to achieve, what audiences you're trying to reach, and what your vision is. Like, is it to build Mr. Beast empire for media, news? Like, how are you thinking about your content strategy?
Well, first of all, I would like to get some sleep because if you seriously, I work my ass off. I'm up like early and late. This is the head of my social media guy, but social media. From Respective Collective. If you guys want social media, it's great. What is my strategy? I want to meet the audience when. Excuse me. My commitment to myself was to meet the audience where it is and to find the audience wherever it is. The audience, quite frankly, I'm not saying that because I'm not there anymore. It's not on cable news, and you know that. There's still a place for legacy media, but where people are getting their news and how they're getting their news now, social media, shorter clips. So every day they're like, these guys are like, please give us some breaking news, give us some whatever. As I was sitting here, I did some news because that's how people are getting their news. So my commitment is to meet the audience where they are. It is paying off because as I walk down the street, it's not just an ego boost, I've joked about that, but all the time people are saying, I saw your interview, I love your TikToks, I watch you on Instagram, I watch your lives on YouTube. YouTube has become the biggest network in the world, and so my goal is just to inform people wherever they are. That's it, and it just happens to be on social media right now.
But I would like you to have a Mr. Beast style line of chocolate bars and a Squid Game-like game show.
Okay, we're getting merch and whatever. We're gonna do that.
Okay, good.
But guess
You're
what?
getting
I've
merch.
never watched Mr. Beast. I'm sorry. And he sends me the Feastables all the
Please
time.
don't apologize to me.
I've never watched it.
I also don't watch
I don't
Mr. Beast.
watch. I don't like to be in competition. I want to do what I do myself. You know what I
I
mean?
want to know what kind of merch you're getting. Are you doing underpants? I think the Don Lemon line
Wow.
of underpants would do really well, especially from the people that like to see you dancing. in your
It
living
is
room.
lemon. It would make a lot of things smell a lot better. And it would be lemon scented underwear, I think.
Awesome. Okay, I'll order
That's
some.
what
I'll
I
be your
mean by
first
that.
orderer.
I hope you guys understood what I was saying.
I think we did. I think there's some bewildered looking
Lemon
faces,
fresh.
some appalled looking faces actually. They're like, oh no.
Lemon Fresh Joy. Do you guys, anybody old enough to remember Lemon Fresh Joy? No? The slogan, Lemon Fresh Joy. It's underwear. Anyways.
Okay, next question, please. Lady in white, and then we'll come to the gentleman lounging in the very comfortable leather chair.
I feel like Phil Donahue. Anybody old enough to remember that? Caller, you're on the air.
Oh, Phil Donahue.
How are you?
Hi, what's your
Hi,
name
nice to
and
meet
where are
you.
you from and what's your question?
Rhonda, I live in New York.
All right.
I'm from Lebanon.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. So I appreciated your comments about the girl with Palestine, but that's not my question. My question is, how did you feel about your departure from CNN? I don't know what else to call it. Were you happy, sad, shocked? How did you deal? Was it the worst day of your life? Was it a blessing in disguise? And how did you cope and bounce back?
Oh, boy. Let me lay down on the couch. That is a loaded question. Actually, it's not. How did I feel? Look, everything comes to an end. So it's like, to me, that's not a big deal. I didn't like the way it came to an end. I thought I was treated very unfairly. There were a lot of things that were written and said about me that were not true, and I couldn't defend myself at the time because contractually I can't. In your contract, you cannot make public statements, yada, yada, yada. And so and I am still under contract with CNN until the end of 2026. So thank you, CNN, for the paycheck. And people think that I was let go of CNN for certain things or certain stories or certain things. I said that was not it at all. The bottom line is that they wanted to move the network in a certain direction, and I was not part of it. They wanted to leverage their relationship with conservatives. And as you know, I had this very tense conversation on the morning show, and I'm saying probably too much, that shouldn't be talking about this stuff, with Vivek Ramaswamy. And it was the only time I'd ever been called in the principal's office for the almost 17 years that I was at CNN, because they wanted to give these folks air. And I said to them, well, what is our election denier insurrectionist policy? And they couldn't answer it. And I think they probably did not like that question. And 4 days later, I was gone. And so, people think, oh, it was Nikki Haley who says none of that. None of that was it, because people say dumb things in conversations all the time. And one should realize that. And if you know my history as a professional, my entire team at CNN was women. Ran my show. I put women on their first chance to be in primetime all the time. Even the people who were on my show, I gave them their first shot, both of the women who sat next to me. So it was tough. It's tough hearing those things and people saying, oh my God, you're a misogynist, whatever. So being let go from CNN, that's no big deal. I'm thriving. It was a blessing in disguise. But for the thing that hurts the most to me, that since I grew up in a family of all women, and you should read my Substack, I just wrote about it the other day, is people calling me sexist or misogynist, which is the furthest thing from who I am. Well, that was very tough.
Okay, well, can I borrow your mic? Oh, yeah. My microphone's back now. Well, the reason they did that, I guess, was because of the Prime comment, right? What was the Prime? Why did you say I
talked about it in my book, that her ideas were outdated.
Okay.
And I was shocked that she, of all people, as a woman, would put considering how society has treated women, that she would do the same thing with an older person. I thought she was being ageist, and I thought about my grandmother, who was an older woman who had these tests, the tests for voting and all of that, and all of these things that were put on women. I was surprised that someone who had been discriminated against because she is a woman, that she would be ageist about someone. She wanted to decide when Joe Biden's prime was, and it would to the society, not me. And I said that. I said society. I said that that she is, and I'm not saying that I believe it, but no one writes about that. Society treats women that way, and I thought it was just tone deaf for her, and just a little bit too cute by half for her to decide that. And she was deciding it about Joe Biden, who was not that much older than Donald Trump. When Joe Biden was a senior, Donald Trump was a freshman in high school. And so that's what that was about. Not that I think that a woman has an expiration date, not at all.
I thought that was so odd, because you and I have worked together. We did an Oscars together, actually, for CNN, and I couldn't understand. I was like, no, that's so not what Don Lemon thinks, so I'm glad you cleared that up.
Go back and look at the tape and see what I said.
Although it turns out she was probably right about Joe Biden.
She was probably right about Joe Biden, but also her being tone deaf just about the world. I think that I was right about her. The Civil War was not about slavery. Come on, Nikki Haley. You know, it's like, give me a break. She will say, I don't know if you're a fan or not, I'm not, and it has nothing to do with how old she is, it has nothing to do with her politics. I think that she's a hypocrite and that she will say anything to get elected. That's my issue with her. That's it.
Okay, gentleman sitting down here looking very fabulous. You look so zero Bond right now. Black shirt, black pants, you're lounging in a lovely leather chair.
How are you? I got you.
Good, I'm Xavier. So,
Hi, Xavier.
I know you don't like morning shows. I'm a big fan of Morning Joe. and MSNBC.
Yeah.
So maybe tell us what you think is going to happen when they get spun out of Comcast.
I don't think much is going to change. You mean with Morning Joe or with MSNBC?
Just the network in general, the landscape, etc.
Well, the person running the network is actually a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, and she's getting lots of criticism, and that's Rebecca Cutler. Her first EP job was on my show, my weekend show in Atlanta, and I fought for her to head my show because I just thought she was really talented. So I think that Rebecca is very good at talent. She was in charge of the contributors and analysts at CNN, and it also helped with talent. So I don't think the network is going to change that much. I think they're in good hands with her. People are concerned about what happened with the host there, but I don't know if that much is going to change with MSNBC, and especially with Rachel Maddow at the helm. I think they're going to be fine.
Do you mean when Mika and Joe went down to Mar-a-Lago to talk to Donald Trump?
Do I have to talk about that? Because I don't know Mika. I know Joe. I happen to like him. I had to. The weird thing in this business, as you know, and you know it as well, that you have to critique people and analyze people who you like and their moves, and it doesn't mean that you don't like them, but that's your job, right? And so I had to criticize them in a way. I thought, of course, if I had the opportunity to talk to Donald Trump, right, I would take that opportunity. And I did have the opportunity in 2017, or even 2016 after he was elected, to speak with him. But I'll tell you what I did back then, and this is what I would do now. So he invited a bunch of people after he got elected, a bunch of the anchors, like the primetime anchors and the major networks and at the cable networks, to come to, I forget if it was Trump Tower or, I think it was Trump Tower, because I don't think he was in the White House yet. And he invited a bunch of us to come over to talk. And I called up my boss and I said, do I have to go? And he goes, no, you don't have to go. And he said, why don't you want to go? I said, because we're going to sit there and he's just going to demonize us and he's going to talk shit about us. And why would we put ourselves through that? And I said to Jeff, I said, what I will do is I will put in a request to interview him so that we can be transparent and public about it. And I just don't want to sit there in an off-the-record meeting and have him berate us and then have him and his folks leak it to the media. And then and that's exactly what he did. So this time, rather than going to Mar-a-Lago and sitting down in a private thing and going down to him, I would have said, I would love to speak to you, but let's do it at Mar-a-Lago or anywhere else. Let's do it on the record. Let's do it for an interview for the American people because I think it's important, especially considering how people feel about the media now and feel about you. Let's get this on the record. You are going to be the president of the United States. I respect that, but I think this interview should be transparent and public. That's what I would have done. They did not do that. Perhaps they offered it and he didn't do it, but that's and otherwise I would have said, no, thank you.
Well, we had Mika on the podcast, actually one of our best performing podcasts, where people were so interested about it, and she explained that they'd gone because they felt they had the opportunity, they wanted to talk to him, he'd been voted in.
Well, also, I mean, there was an additional element to it, and I remember talking to Mika about this, which I did understand this aspect of it, because she is so committed to women's health issues in particular. And she felt like having the opportunity to possibly move him on that issue was her job. And I think, as she explained it to us, she felt like, I have the opportunity, it's sit down, it's informal, like I will press him on the issues that I care about in the only way that I know how, in person, because he does respond to in-person things. And of course, it had absolutely no effect and had the effect of blowing up their worlds for quite a long time, and they fielded a lot of criticism. But I did understand that. I mean, I don't know him. I don't want to talk to him. But I do understand that perspective. I mean, everybody thinks they can move him, but ultimately he's not really moved by
I don't have any
anything
sort of sense
other
that one
than-
can move him, but I just think as a journalist's job, your job is to observe and report, right? And it almost doesn't matter if you're in a compromised position, because you can always report the fact you're in a compromised position. But as a reporter, as a journalist,
Right.
it's always better to sit in a room with someone
Agree.
than have someone else's point of view on it. You get to smell someone, you get to see them, you get to observe them, you get to watch them, and you can come come away with your own opinion. And you were there, and you may have felt compromised when you were there for CNN, but now you can talk about it in a way that feels much more unfettered.
I don't know if it was off the record or not. I don't know. And I look, like I said, they made the choice that they made. I would have made a different choice. And especially they had sort of been the opposition to Donald Trump. So I think you have to sort of read the room. It was shocking to a lot of people. And again, I like Joe. I don't know Mika, and from what I see her of her on television, I really like her. I like that she has this know your value thing for women. I love that. But I think that I just would have, I feel that they didn't really read the room, and that it was kind of about them rather than the American public. And I think you have to take the American public's sentiment into consideration sometimes. And would I like to be in a room? Sure. But do I want to be considering that sitting in a room with him at Mar-a-Lago without a camera and without any way of being able to report it? No, I don't think I would want to. At least I would have asked and have pushed to have an interview. Maybe he'll do it now, but I doubt it. I've said this on Bill Maher, and I've said it before. I think a large group I think a big faction of the MAGA movement is racist. And as a black man, and bigoted and homophobic, and as a black gay man, I just can't. And I believe it is true. As the evidence is there. Look at how they, the criticism of me is often based in racism and homophobia.
Right.
And all you have to do is sort of listen to what MAGA people say and what they stand for, and what the head of MAGA has done, and how MAGA, the inception of MAGA was from, show me your birth certificate.
Right.
And so let's just go from there. And so I just can't. And that it's not an opinion, it's a fact.
Right.
And look, culminating till today, the person, he wasn't a MAGA person, but it was Strom Thurmond, who was a member of the Republican Party, who filibustered the 1964 Civil Rights Act.
Right.
And then now you have a black man who is, broken his record. And I think that's probably not going to go over well with some MAGA folks. But yeah, I don't have to be friends with you, but I can sit down or I can have a conversation with you.
Right.
All right, well, I'm going to call this podcast to order because these poor people have got to get out and eat in the most fabulous restaurant in Zero Bond, and there are some delicious things on the menu. So I want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you very much for your questions. I want to thank the team at Zero Bond for making this possible, to Scott, to Brad, Carolyn, Omar and Sophie. Thank you very much for organising this. Thank you to everybody here. Thank you to the live audience for coming tonight and being part of our first live taping. Thank you to Don Lemon for being fabulous first guest. And if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, comment, and share it with everybody you know and some people you don't know. And Sam?
I've forgotten what I'm supposed to say. I think we're supposed to email it.
You're supposed to say.
I think I'm
That's
supposed
why
to
you
say
have a
something
script.
about. I have a script, but I put it down because I was so fascinated by
This
what's
podcast
happening.
was produced by
No, let
such
me
and
see
such. Our
yours. I'm gonna have
engineer
to
is
read
this
yours.
person.
Okay,
I've
she's going to
lost
read
my
mine.
place.
You just have one
yes.
line. You have one line at the end.
No, you have to keep sending emails to beastpod@thedailybeast.com because Joanna reads all of them and personally
I
responds.
take feedback.
Can I say
I
something?
take feedback, yes.
Make sure you go to YouTube for the Don Lemon Show. Sign up. Go to substackdonlemon.com
Fair.
and sign up for my Substack.
We can't leave you without some final words from my personal muse, First Lady of the United States of America,
Melania Trump.
who's saying it again, and I think we should all take this to heart. Get out there and be best.
I told you it was Melania. I told you it was Melania.
It's Be Beast. Be Beast.
Also be beast.
Okay.
I really don't care, do you?
I really don't care.
What was she thinking with that jacket? The Daily Beast podcast is produced by Sarah Demonkoff, Svea Baron Reinstein, Jesse Cannon, and Seamus Calder. It's edited by Deanna Chapman and engineered by Cam Shanken. Thank you very much for coming, everybody, and making this is going to be so much fun. We'll barely edit it.
Yeah.
Fluent, great questions. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That was great. Am I in trouble?
So much fun. Why are you in trouble? Why would you be in trouble? You're only in trouble with yourself.
I really don't
right?
care,
You don't have a
do
boss.
you? I know.
You don't have a boss.